Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rob's Little Blue Book. And tonight we are doing lasagna, as we talked about last week. So, really excited about this one. We're going to be doing a little bit of time travel on this one because obviously I can't make lasagna for you guys. Although I thought about it and I tried. It's impossible to make lasagna within one stream time frame. So we're going to go through the basic steps, show you guys a few things about how lasagnas go together, and we'll TV time it and do a taste test towards the end. So, but we are doing a cocktail tonight. And I was kind of inspired, well, I don't know if I was inspired or terrified. I was in the LCBO the other day, and on the way out of the cooler beer section, they had these guys. This is a pre-mixed Crown Royal, come on. There, see, whiskey and cola. And then this one is Jack Daniels and cola. I know you can't, there you go, see, I can hold it to my head. So I thought that was kind of interesting and slightly unsettling at the same time. But it did remind me of Orion Coke. And Orion Coke is like, you know, like the rum and Coke, it's a classic dive bar drink. It doesn't have the Hemingway history that a rum and Coke does. It wasn't invented by a famous author, and there's no lime in it or anything. It doesn't have a fancy name, or at least a name in another language. It's just Orion Coke. Although, if you do a little bit of digging, so Orion Coke is actually kind of a Canadian drink. So it's normally done with rye whiskey and Coke. And if you go down to the States, Jack and Coke, of course, is another thing, because nobody in their right mind would drink Jack Daniels straight, so you got to put something in it, or put it in something. And Coke is quite often the choice, mixture of choice. This is often called a Lemmy in the States after the Motorhead frontman. Apparently this was his favorite drink. And while we're on the subject of music, turns out a Scotch and Coke, it was a favorite drink of the Beatles back in the 60s. So, it's not like there's no history, but it's kind of like, you know, this is a humble drink, and I'm feeling humble today. So we're gonna try. First of all, we're gonna do a taste test of these two. So I haven't tried these. I was waiting for stream. Couple of things right away that concern me a little bit is that this is 7% alcohol by volume, and this is like a king can. It's 470. So there's not much alcohol. There's not much Crown in here. So I have a feeling this is like, I would never make a Orion Coke by putting 1.5 ounces of whiskey in a glass and topping it with a pint of Coca-Cola. So we're gonna see what this tastes like. This and then the Jack one we'll see too. And then to top it all up, oh, actually I need to grab something. After all of that, I'm going to make like a nicer Orion Coke using my favorite cola at the moment, the Bolin Cane Cola, and we'll see if we can. And I have some actual Crown Royal here. We'll see if we can improve on these. Although I don't think it's going to be hard, but you know, let's be hopeful here. So I'm going to start with. I would take a vote, except it seems like the lag is so long, and I'm kind of thirsty. So I'm just going to pick one, and I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the Jack. I'm going to go with the Jack and Cola and see what this tastes like. Now, I have glasses. Honestly, this looks like the kind of beverage you would drink out of a can, but I don't want the metal can to taint my tasting sensibilities, as it were. Although, I don't know if they could get any more tainted. So here we go. Cheers, everybody, I hope. Yeah, that doesn't taste like anything. Nope. That just tastes like, you remember RC Cola? That like off-brand that you used to get in the supermarket real cheap? It's not as good as that. I mean, if you really dig, you can taste, it's got like a kind of an alcoholic edge to it. I mean, the nice thing about, there you go. I did not know that, Rebecca. The nice thing about using Coca-Cola as a mixer is it's quite acidic, so it cuts spirits quite well. Like, there's a reason, I mean, Coke's obviously, they promote it like crazy, but there's a reason it's a very popular mixer. It actually goes quite well with spirits. This, yeah, I'm just gonna put this aside for now. And just pretend that didn't happen. Okay, I have slightly higher hopes for Crown because it's Canadian, so it's automatically better. Again, I have no idea what cola they use in this. But let's see. But again, we have the same thing. This is 470 milliliters. So, like, I don't know, is Serena, lime might make it better. It's certainly not going to make it worse. Lime would make it, like, taste like something. I'm making a mess here. Okay. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, that tastes a little better. The cola is better. Then watch, somebody will tell me it's the same thing, but no, it tastes... I mean, this tastes like a decent cola. You can barely taste, like... It's got like an alcoholic whiff to it. But again, it basically tastes like cola. So, not sure, I'm gonna put this one aside too. I'm not sure who they're aiming at, guys, for those two. It's like if I was gonna do a pre-bottled cola and whiskey, it would be like in a small bottle, like. Anyway, yeah, I gotta figure, Rebecca, I gotta figure that's what it is. You know what it might be? It might be the bro equivalent of like White Claws and Coolers. You know, maybe if they're not like, you know, they're so masculine they can't bear the thought of drinking something that's a White Claw or whatever, they can have their whiskey and Coke. Maybe. It's also terrifying. Anyway, I don't know, guys. Not a fan of either drink. It's not going to be something for me. I won't be buying it again, but by all means, no, don't give it a shot. It's terrible, guys. Just don't. Okay, but let's make a good rye and Coke because I want to get the taste of my mouth, the other stuff. So I have Crown here, which is, you know, it's a good solid rye. It's good on its own. It's good as a mixing spirit. You know, it's not so fancy that you're going to feel bad pouring Coke in it, for example. So I got like, that's almost 2 ounces of rye, which is, I like my cocktail strong. I mean, no two ways about it. And I'm just going to top this with this, the cane cola. Coke would be perfectly acceptable here. I thought I'd take it like slightly upscale with the bowling cane cola, which I really like. Both on its own and as a mixer. So I'm just going to top it. I figure that that's about 3 ounces, maybe 4. And you could experiment with your own, you know, in your own levels of mix, right? Like for me, if I'm doing a drink like this, like a rye and ginger or rye and Coke, as I said, I like them strong, so I'm going to do 2 ounces of spirits, and for me, like 3 or 4 ounces of mix. But you could go up to like 6 ounces before it got ridiculous, and then eventually you're going to get back to the pint can. So anyway, cheers, guys. Yeah, and that tastes great. Like I can actually taste the Crown, and the cola is really nice. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, guys, so I don't know. I mean, part of the point of a rye and Coke is it's something you can order in a dive bar and not be too afraid. you know, you're gonna get the rail whiskey and a spritz over the top of the glass of whatever's on their trigger, but it's usually Coca-Cola, so you can't really go too far wrong. Anyway, there you go. I'm gonna put this aside. I'm running out of counter space, guys. Okay, let's talk about lasagna for a sec, because that's actually what we came here to do. And there's some good techniques with this. I really wanted to try and see if I could get do like a weeknight lasagna. Not because I really like the concept of weeknight meals. I feel like you should take your time when you're cooking, but let's face it, sometimes you need to get something on the table, and I get that. But you can't do it with lasagna. I looked at the no-boil noodles, and we'll talk about that in a sec. And I looked at substitutes for like the bechamel, like a lot of people use ricotta, which is just kind of gross. But I did discover that it actually doesn't take that much time to put a lasagna together. So yes, Rebecca's asking about the meats. I got a whole bunch of stuff here. So we're gonna start by making. I'm gonna do the bechamel first, simply to get it out of the way. So a bechamel, as you guys all know, is just. No, ricotta is not gross, Rebecca. I know ricotta is not gross. I don't like it in lasagna. And it turns out that ricotta is there just as a substitute for bechamel, which for lasagna is superior to ricotta in every way that matters. Okay, so, and bechamels are not hard to make. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a bechamel real quick, because it's so easy and there's no reason not to. It is way faster and easier than going to the store and buying ricotta. Okay, so we're gonna just like, we're gonna do this kind of like on the speed setting. And as I take your time when you're doing this, guys, but we're gonna go a little bit quicker, I think, than normal. Any questions on the Ryan code? Probably not, right? It's pretty straightforward. It's good though. Okay, so let me just get this going. Does anybody have any questions about bechamel? Like, this is very, very, very straightforward, and this is, you know, I like this lasagna recipe for the technique of the bechamel, because this is in every, you know, this is a core recipe. This is mac and cheese starts this way, right? Okay, so you got your fat, which in this case is butter. We're just making a roux here. No big surprises. You do want to, so the only thing, always unsalted butter. There's no reason to use salted butter for anything. Salt was added to butter originally to as a preservative to make it keep longer, which is no longer an issue. Now, you know, on toast, salted butter is good, right? It's got salt in it. But you can also just salt your unsalted butter. I don't even keep salted butter in the house. But yes, you always want to be in control of your salt. It's 50-50, Rebecca. So the ratio, guys, that was 35 grams of butter and 35 grams of flour. And 35 grams of butter is about a little more than 2 tablespoons. And I don't know how much flour, but it's basically half and half. Now, the only thing you have to be careful about when you're using flour cooking, whatever you're doing, is you have to make sure you cook it. Because if you don't cook it, you'll get a raw flour taste in whatever you're doing. Not good. If you watched any reality show, Hell's Kitchen or MasterChef or whatever, you'll see it time and time again, at least once a season, somebody gets blasted for having a raw flour taste in their dish. Okay, so now I've got my roux going here, and I'm going to add 2 cups, 500 milliliters of milk. And I'm going to fog up the camera probably. If you want this to go a little bit faster, you can warm your milk first. I didn't bother because I got a pretty high flame here, and it's not really necessary. Okay, now the other thing about bechamels and any sauce that's thickened with a roux is it has to come to a boil. Has to come to a boil, and at least for like a minute. If it doesn't, it won't thicken. So if you're making like, I don't know if you guys remember, like way back when we made mac and cheese. If you're making mac and cheese, you're going to start exactly this way. We're on the road to mac and cheese here, except we're not going to put cheese in here. This has to come to a boil and simmer for at least a minute. So I normally, when I'm doing mac and cheese, and you'll see here, I bring it to a boil, and then for mac and cheese, I simmer it at least 5 minutes to make sure it's going to thicken. If you don't, it won't thicken. I don't know why. Somebody with better Google food than me can figure it out. But I do know that it needs to be done. I'm kind of like, I got the heat up here. And again, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about too. This is kind of, so I obviously like I watch a lot of YouTube content for cooking. Partly for ideas for stream, partly to see what other people are doing and stuff. And one of the trends that I've noticed is that there seems to be a focus in a lot of streams on learning chef techniques that you would use in a restaurant. Now, for certain things that makes sense. Like, you know, you should hold your knife, and this is a classic pinch grip. You should hold your knife like a restaurant chef holds his knife, because this is the best way and safest way to hold a knife. Gives you the most control, it's the most comfortable, and there's no argument there. Like, that's clearly the best way to hold a knife. Now, that part makes sense. However, there's a lot of things about restaurant cooking that don't apply to home. You don't need to be able to chop an onion in under 27 seconds. I mean, it can be fun to practice that, but you should be practicing being like safe and taking your time with your knife. You know, you're not going to be able, and it takes some of the joy out of cooking at home. You're not a line cook, guys. You know, you're not cranking out 100 covers in 2 hours. So you don't need to act in your kitchen as if that's your goal, that you're doing that. You're cooking for the people that you care about, which is the most fun, and you can take your time doing that. You don't have to rush. Okay, so you already can see this thickening up, but it hasn't come to a boil yet. So when you're doing this at home, you don't have to stir quite as frantically as I am. I have a very high flame here, and I don't want to scald the milk on the bottom. It's not a nice flavor. So again, here's the thing. Don't, like, okay, there we go, it boiled. You don't need to cook like this at home. You turn the heat down, take it easy. Have a couple sips of wine in between. You know? Okay. Now, for this bechamel, this is sort of the classic ratio. When I'm making mac and cheese, I actually make a slightly thinner bechamel than this. But since I know I'm using this for lasagna, it's going to be pretty thick. So now that we have the boil here, I'm going to turn the flame down quite a bit. Just keep it ticking over. And we're going to depart here slightly from classic bechamel, because I'm going to add a little bit of nutmeg, which I think is a wonderful flavor in lasagna. And I just need to find my microplane. Okay. Here it is. We talked about nutmeg, right? Guys, this is the inside of the nut. When you get nutmeg, it comes in it has a shell, and there's this like kind of lace surrounding to the shell. That's mace, the other spice that you get from this. I don't have one to show you because it's back in the cupboard, and wow, did it take me a long time to find my nutmeg. Serena was very tolerant today because I was behind getting ready for a stream, and doesn't it smell good? I was behind, so I got frustrated because I couldn't find the nutmeg. Silly. And here's the other thing too. Don't stress out over your cooking. Like I was getting ready for stream, but that's that same restaurant vibe, right? Like, don't do that to yourself. It's not worth it. Take your time. Enjoy yourself. How do I take what off? Oh, the mace? It just breaks off. It's barely attached. I actually don't know what to use mace for, so I have some. I have no idea what dish I would even use it for. To be honest, I don't even know what mace tastes like. Okay, so I like the way this is going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this onto just a back burner here. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to pop this on a back burner while we continue on. Now, I want this to cook for at least another 5 minutes on low heat, so I'm just going to do that back here. Turn it up a bit even. My backup bechamel. Okay. Any questions on bechamel? You'll see where that comes in a little bit. So the next thing, let's get on to the ragu. I'm going to put this away for a sec. Well, Penny, let me know. I'm really curious because, as I said, I've never seen it called for in a recipe, so I just don't know. But let's talk about how to do a ragu, because ragus are really easy, and it's great to have around. This is my very basic ragu. So we have our Rebecca, it will. I got it actually on a very low heat, which will have it, it'll continue to thicken there. So this is great, and I love doing this. So before, when I had my meat grinder, and I got my little mini chop here, but before when I'd make ragus, and I had this enormous meat grinder, which I gave to my brother, and or we might have traded. I think I traded on the coffee table for it. It doesn't matter. So when I would do ragus before, I would grind the meat, and I would literally just run my vegetables through the grinder as part of it. So we need to do a sofrito. And I don't have a meat grinder, but you don't need to dice this up. It's a real time saver. You can just, I found that I have a little mini chop. I'm sure you guys have food processors. But honestly, 10 seconds in there gives you the exact same consistency that I used to get when it came out of the meat grinder. So I'm just not going to waste any time on it. This makes it really easy, right? It's enough carrot, actually. So I've got my 3 components here, and as you know, a sofrito and a mirepoix are exactly the same, except a sofrito is a ratio of 1:1:1, and a mirepoix is 2:1:1, with 2 being the onions. But you really can't go wrong, guys. I'm just rough chopping these because I know I'm going to blitz them in the blender here. This does save some time. And there you go. And as I said, this is going to be like, get in there. I don't even think that was 10 seconds. And there you go. Like, we just have like perfect sofrito consistency for what we're going to do tonight, which is make ragu. So I'm going to do this. You can do this in any pot you want. Honestly, like the best pot to do this would be like, which honestly you only see in restaurants, would be like not a Dutch oven, but like a wide, semi-deep pan. You'll see why in a sec, but I'm going to use a wok because earlier, as I said, I was TV timing this, so the dark secret is I've already got a lasagna in the oven, which we'll see in a bit. But in doing so, I also use pretty much every pot and pan in my kitchen. So this is why I'm doing a wok here. And we're also going to do this over relatively high heat, which you don't have to do. All right, so that's our sofrito. We're going to add a generous portion of olive oil to get this going. And our goal here is to, now, seriously, you don't need to rush this part, because what we want to do here is we want to take this down, we want to add some color, and you want to do it slow because you almost want to roast these in the pan. Now, I'm not going to do that because we need to get this done tonight. But honestly, like going a little slower, and I'm not saying like spend 2 hours at this. This is like, maybe to take these to the color you want, you'd want to go like 15 minutes. You'll see, this will reduce quite a bit. And while this is going, let's talk about some of our other ingredients here. So to the, obviously we have some ground beef. I'm glad you asked that, Rebecca. So I did this earlier today, and I actually spent probably like a solid half hour cooking down the sofrito. I had it on a relatively low temperature because I was working and checking it every once in a while. So yeah, you can take your time. It can't take too long. I mean, eventually, like, everybody has time constraints, I get that, but this is somewhere where you can kind of go slow. You're building flavor here. You don't want to rush it. There's a caramelization that happens here. If you go slower, it really benefits your dish in the long run. Okay, so I've got 500 grams of ground beef and 2 sausages. They're about 100 grams each, and that's going to be our meat for the ragu. So for lasagna is an old dish. We're talking like ancient Rome old. There's some controversy. Now, the Greeks actually have a dish called, Serena knows what it is, that's on my list of things to make. I forget. And they claim to have invented lasagna, but they didn't. They have a word called, I forget. The Greeks have a word for pasta, like the original pasta. It's on the tip of my tongue. Laganon. Yeah, it smells good. It's also 30 degrees in my kitchen. So laganon was the original Greek word for pasta, and well, there you go. That's the one. So that is there's a Greek lasagna, or Greek lasagna construction, which I haven't made yet, but if you go way back in ancient Rome, lagana is the Roman term for a mixture of wheat and flour and water that they used to either like fire in the oven or bake in a pan. So it is a Roman dish, but we're talking like, 1200s. This is old. Now the modern day lasagna came around much later, late 1800s, and the dish that's sort of spread around the world is lasagna al forno, which is which is just a ragu, and it's more ragu and a sort of a thick bechamel. Cheese was added by the Romans much later on, but what we're doing tonight is sort of the traditional lasagna you would get in Bologna. So it is going to be a layer of bechamel, a layer of ragu, some parmesan, and noodles. That's it. And we'll do probably 4 layers of that. So you can see this is already starting to cook down pretty quick. Now I have a ragu already done, so it's never bad to have a lot of ragu on hand, which I'm going to. I'm kind of just showing you guys how fast a ragu goes together. And I do want this to, so you can see it looks like I have a lot of, and I do have a lot. It's a pretty big recipe. I've got a fair amount of veg here. I do want this to cook down just a little bit more before I add the meat. This is also a great thing to make with your freezer vegetables. I don't know about you guys, but like I can never use up all the celery and carrots that I buy. So I often end up throwing them in the freezer, and I usually make them into stock or whatever, but they would be equally at home in a ragu. Again, I do want this to go just a little bit more down before I add the meat. No, Rebecca, if I add liquid, it'll steam and it won't cook down. I actually need it to sort of reduce in the oil. Now, that is a really good adding liquid is a really good technique when you're cooking other things with oil. I do that all the time with, okay, now, I can't remember. But even just potatoes or carrots or something like that. Even if I'm sauteing potatoes or carrots and I feel like maybe they're a little bit thick and the potatoes aren't cooking as fast as I want, I will throw in some water to help them steam and speed up the cooking. But in this particular case, I'm not really trying to speed up the cooking. I'm just trying to get these to like caramelize and reduce down, which they won't do if they're steaming in liquid. And in the interest of, yeah, and I'm almost there. So by the time I get the sausages out of their casing, we're going to be good to go. So these guys are just straight up mild pork or mild Italian pork sausages. Obviously, I'm going to take them out of the casing, and they can just go straight in to our mix here. Excellent. And that's the other one. You could also save yourself a trouble if you can find like sausage patties or something at the grocery store that aren't in casing. But I'm using these ones just in case. Okay. Now again, we're going to go up on the heat here. You don't have to. But we're going to try and move this along. So in this step, let me see if I can move this up so you guys can see. In this step, what we're trying to do is obviously brown the meat, but we also want to like cook off some of the lighter liquids. And it's not like we're trying to like reduce the juices to get rid of flavor. We're not. But there's a lot of moisture in here, which is going to interfere with building our flavor base. We want to cook that part off. And eventually when this is ready, this just goes on the burner and then we can get on with the show here. So this is basically, oh, I gotta add tomatoes and stuff, but this is kind of like, this is a basic ragu, guys. You can use this for anything. This goes obviously amazing on pasta. It's the filling for our lasagna. You can use this for so many things. Okay, kind of bust this up. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit for just a sec. Bit carpal tunnel from making ragu. Just for the record, I've never had a pre-made cocktail that was any good. I actually had high hopes for the Caesars, the Mott's Clamato Caesars in a can. It's just better fresh. Let's talk a little bit about noodles. I was going to wait to talk about noodles, but we've got some time here. Now, I'm going to roll out a sheet of noodles here tonight. Traditionally, lasagna is made with an egg noodle. However, not everybody's going to do that. And if you're in a hurry and you want to make lasagna, don't let the fact that you don't have fresh pasta stop you. But if you are going to choose between boil and no boil noodles, choose the no boil ones. Not only, that's the other lasagna, give me a sec guys. Not only are they easier, let me just whack this down to like 200, I'm just gonna leave it warm. One sec, be right with you. The time travel lasagna looks great. We were talking about noodles though. So the no boil noodles, not only are they easier to use, but they're thinner, which they should be, because you want your lasagna noodles to be very, very, very thin, which is sometimes a bit of a challenge. And the no boil ones are just thinner. So there you go. Okay, so I'm actually kind of happy with the way this is. I don't know if you guys can see, but most of our, like, I want to say the weaker liquids have boiled off, and I've got a good solid flavor base here. I've just basically got the fat from the meat and some of the olive oil that we started with in the bottom, which is fantastic. Now, we are going to add 400 grams of passata. This is the stuff I get from, and I was terrified. I went down there today and they didn't have any on the shelf, but she just made it. So if you ever get a chance, if you're in the beaches, Casamia is, yeah, Penny, it is 32 degrees in my kitchen right now. But Casamia, wonderful people, and they make a passata that I can't do any better than. It's fantastic. So that goes in. I'm going to add a little bit of water here too, because this is, so now guys, here's the thing. This is going to sit on the stove for, hang on. This now goes on the stove for 3 to 4 hours at least. And I'm going to add just a, so here's the other thing too. I am going to season it now just a little bit. I got just a tiniest pinch of salt here because I want it to simmer with the salt. Be very careful with your salt. Remember, this is anytime we're doing a dish that's going to reduce, you need to be very careful with your salt. Now, I have a pretty good sense of how much salt to put in. I do want it to cook down with a bit of salt, but this is nowhere near the final seasoning. So there you go. Any questions on our ragu? Because this is basically done. Unless you want to come back in 4.5 hours, in which case we can do a taste test. Do I even have a burner on the stove this will fit? So our bechamel looks fantastic. So maybe I'll take that off the heat. Give me a sec, guys. Take that off the heat. Here's our bechamel. Let's put this away. You can go over here. We'll check on you in 4 hours. Don't need this anymore. Okay. Yeah, you know what? A wok is just a fantastic pan all around for so many kinds of cooking. Getting back to the whole restaurant thing, but if you've ever worked in a restaurant, anytime you finish, you're finishing a pasta dish, they have an aluminum, it's hard to describe, it's like an aluminum saute pan with rounded sides. And the advantage of aluminum in this case is that it loses heat very quickly, which is what you want. So if you're finishing like a carbonara, for example, you can throw your pasta into your guanciale and oil and everything else, emulsify your sauce over the heat, and then take that aluminum pan off the heat, and it will cool down really fast so that when you can put your egg cream mixture in, like your eggs and your cheese, you're not going to scramble your eggs. I got some on my eyebrow. Oh yeah. There we go. Okay. So let's see. This is an amazing. This is exactly where we want our bechamel to be in terms of consistency, and this can just stay off the heat now because we are going to use it soon. Okay, where are we at, guys? I feel like I need some space here. Oh yeah, we got Parma obviously to do our layers, but what we have to do is roll out the sheet of pasta, which I was going to do before stream, but as I said, I was running a little bit behind. So here we are. Not a perfect world, right? So anyway, that'll give me a chance to show you guys, how to roll out a sfolia, because this is, and here's the other thing too. If you're going to make your own pasta, well, it is. So let's talk about that for a sec. Actually, Rebecca, you gave this to me. I really like, and I'm going to do this. I just realized I dropped out of frame. I think it's very elegant to serve lasagna as an individual portion in the dish. So this is too big for an individual portion, but I've seen it done in restaurants and I've got my eyes peeled, but they have like little lasagna trays where you literally build individual portions of lasagna and pop them in the oven or under the broiler, and they look amazing. I think that is a fantastic idea. But I'm also okay with lasagna as a big family style dish where you have a huge tray and you pass it around. So I don't know. In any case, this is the only dish I have left that I can make lasagna in, so I'm going to use it. So that's my tiny lasagna dish. Okay. Sfolia. Does everybody remember? Were you guys here? Who was here for the pasta episode? Because if you were going to experiment with rolling out your own pasta, this is a fantastic dish to start with because you don't have to cut any noodles. You're just going to roll out your dough and cut it into, well, I'm going to cut it into rectangles about that size. So this is a fantastic way to experiment with rolling out your pasta for the first time. I've done this before, and we're going to roll it out. As I said, I meant to do this before stream, but didn't happen. So, as a refresher, this dough has, I mixed this up earlier. This has been hydrating for, which pasta? I know we've done a lot of pasta episodes, but I haven't rolled out homemade pasta, I don't think, in all of them. This is really simple. This is, of course, 00 flour, which is the only thing you're going to use for making this pasta, and eggs. That's it. And if you have to go back to that episode, the ratio, rule of thumb, is 100 grams of flour and 1 egg. If you want to go extra fancy, you can do like an all egg yolk version, but I didn't bother for this one because it's not necessary. And then it has to hydrate. So this has been in the fridge since, it needs to at least an hour, okay? 2 hours. This has been in the fridge since noon, and we're gonna roll it out. You can do this with, if you have a smaller portion. So here's the other thing I learned. Larger sheets are easier to roll. It's tempting to start with a small sheet, but it actually turns out a small sheet is kind of hard to roll out. It doesn't stretch as easily. And if you remember my elastic band test, which I can't do because I can't find one, but it makes sense. If you take a little short piece of elastic, it doesn't stretch very much. If you take a long piece of elastic, it stretches just fine. Same thing with pasta dough. Okay, got our mattarello here. If you don't have one of these, and you probably don't, a rolling pin will do just fine. And what you don't want to do is roll it out with a KitchenAid or a pasta roller. And even restaurants will do this. But since you're not in a restaurant and you're not in a hurry, so let me show you. Where is it? Here. So this guy is fantastic, kind of. This plugs into your KitchenAid, and I'm sure you've seen the hand crank machines. It's exactly the same thing. This one happens to fit into your KitchenAid mixer, and you can run your pasta through it, and you make it, there's a little dial here, you make it thinner and thinner and thinner each time. It's great in concept, and restaurants use them all the time because they're in a hurry. But what it does is, when I knead this dough, and when you knead by hand, you kind of aerate the dough and you give it a light characteristic, light texture that really comes through when you cook it. And when you run it through those rollers, it crushes all that air out. It may be in my head, but I will say, like, the tagliatelle that I made, because this makes extra, you'll see when we're done here. Like I cut, when I made it earlier, of course, I had the ends, so I made some tagliatelle as well. When this cooks up, it is light and airy, and it's just a joy to eat. Whereas if I run it through the KitchenAid thing, it's still good, it doesn't have that, it doesn't have any life to it, if that makes sense. Anyway, getting ahead of myself, let's get this guy going or we'll be here all night. It's going to be a longer stream tonight, guys, because I did not get all here. So, if you missed the past episode, this is the initial stage of rolling. We are just doing, and I'm starting, so when you're rolling, I'm kind of turning it from like noon, 12 o'clock to 10. And I've got I'm starting the Mattarello here, and I'm rolling up from the middle and not off the end. So, a couple things there. If you roll off the end, you will like crush the end of the dough, which will go right to flat, and you don't want that. As I said, since I've turned it, you'll see here, so this was the fore end and it's a little bit fat, but it's right under the roller now and it goes down to the right thickness. If you roll it off the ends, you'll create like, skateboarding terms, razor tail. But you'll create a razor thin edge that'll dry out and won't be nice. So, I'm going to move a bit fast in this, but if you guys have any questions about how to roll it pasta, throw them in the comments right now in the meantime. And now I can start going like, I'm going to do 3 rolls, right? I'm going to turn it, I'm going 12, I'm doing 2, and I'm doing 10. That's how the clock works, right? I'm pretty sure. And you'll see in a sec. Now for lasagna, we want this pretty thin. You want it like the thickness of about, I don't know, like 5 or 6 Post-it notes. So I'm just gonna go relatively quickly here. And, whoa, that was my wine. So this looks time consuming. It's not really. I can knock out like a full sheet of this in like less than 15 minutes. It just doesn't take that much time. So eventually your sheet will get kind of too hard to maneuver just with your hands. It gets a little harder to turn on the table, a little unwieldy, and we're almost there here. And I'll show you guys how to deal with that in a sec. I'm gonna do a couple more rolls like this. Again, starting about 2/3 of the way down, giving it a good push up. Crunch off to the side there, this side, and maybe one more, and then we'll start rolling it up. Okay, so now once we get to this size, getting a little harder to handle, so we just pick up the end like that, and this does 2 things. So you can see here, I give it a little stretch, again to stretch it out, and we're going to roll it back, and then we simply turn it to the side, unroll it, and now we can go at it again. And you can see here too, I've got a little indentation. I'm not going to fuss about that too much tonight, but you can form the edge with the rounded end of the Mattarello if you want to keep it round. At some point I stopped stressing about keeping it round and just focus on getting it done. And then we can do like the stretch roll, which is here. I've got it like tucked under my stomach here. And I'm just gonna I'm just stretching it out as I unroll it across the thing and give it a good stretch. Okay. And again, now I'm gonna like give it a little tug, a little more stretch, back it up, we're gonna unroll it this way. And everybody has a different style for rolling. You really should try, like, I tend to roll in the center of the thing, which is okay. This will put even pressure over the whole thing. Ideally, you want to be out at the edges so that you're just having totally even pressure across the whole thing. Now, let's bring this guy back. Again, there's my little cheat stretch. And I can like actually just roll this, flat it down, hang it off the end. And the reason you're hanging it off the end is this sheet is kind of a reasonable size, but you're going to get to a size of sheet when you have more flour and eggs where you won't be able to get the whole thing on your surface. So you need to let half of it hang off the edge. So this is where I usually get to, despite my efforts to keep it round. I kind of get this like semi-oblong rectangle thing going on. Again, I'll give it a little stretch. And my goal now I've done this a few times now, but my goal, what tells me when I'm getting close to the ideal thickness, and I don't know if you guys can see, but I can start to see the wood grain counter through the sheet of pasta. Now, if you're in Italy, the standard rule, or the rule of thumb is when you can see the cathedral through the window, through your sheet of pasta, you know you're done. We do actually have like a cathedral near here, but I can't see it from my window. Okay, let's see where we're at here. Getting closer. Not quite there yet. Just have to bear with me. Any questions about this? We haven't really done the whole hand-rolled pasta thing yet. Or in a while anyway. And again, I got it like, there, 3 cheats. Like I'm really stretching this out now. And then get the belly tuck. I'm really stretching it out. There we go. I'm running out of room on my counter. Again, that's where I would normally have it like off the end. Let's do that. We're almost there, guys. I promise. Almost there. It's deceptive because what looks like it thin on the countertop, once it's cooked up, can actually get quite thick. And this is still, but you can see, I don't know, can you guys see? I'm gonna pull it, watch you can see the grain a little bit underneath. Not quite there yet. Give us a good stretch. I will say, it took me, yes, I was actually literally just about to talk about hydration. It took me a fair bit of time to get the hydration right, because every egg is different. Definitely letting your pasta rest for a good length of time is really important to getting a sheet that rolls out well. The trick I've learned a little bit for hydration is when you're kneading the dough is don't, like go for your 100 grams of flour per egg, or 1 egg per 100 grams or whatever. Don't adjust your dough mix until you're almost done kneading. Like I would do a full 10 minutes, even if it seems like super dry or super wet and you're just convinced it needs a little bit of this or a little bit of that. Don't do it. Go the whole 10 minutes and even let it rest. Like you can do a pre-rest. So roll it for 10 minutes, let it sit for 15 minutes and then come back to it and see where you're at. Yes, I'm using large eggs for this. Having said that, the large eggs that I'm currently using are larger than the large eggs that I started with. Okay, we're almost done. And as I said, as a first, there we go, look at that. You can see the whole grain. Yeah, if there were cathedrals around, they would be hiding from my view. Oh, also, when you're working with a Mattarello, it's a good idea not to be streaming and having like stream decks and broadcast mixers on your tabletop and drinks you can knock over and shit. Okay, I'm very happy with this. I really feel like we're just at exactly the right thickness. So I'm gonna roll this out and let's have a look. Yes, this is perfect. You guys can't see, but it's really thin. And we want it thin for lasagna. Now, what are we gonna do with this? Let's get our, we're doing 4 layers for lasagna, so we need 4 pieces. So I'm just gonna get a rough idea of like how big I want it. That seems about right. It's okay if they're a little big. Oh, come on, really? Fine, I'll do one over here. I don't want to do that. I kind of wanted it all into the same thing. Let's see if I can fake it. Maybe not. All right. Because technically I want the bottom, right? It's a little smaller. Let's see what I can do here. So anyway, out of this guy, I really just need 4 sheets. So I'm just gonna like cut there. Cut there. I may have to trim these down just a little bit, but it seems okay. And as I said, for your first shot at like hand rolling, hand cutting, what could be easier than what we're doing here is just like, we're just cutting rectangles. So I want to put these just off to the side for a sec. That's 1, 2, and I really want, yeah, so here, I really want to do it here, and I'll show you why in a sec. This is the way it went this morning. So I'm just going to take this end off here for our third and fourth piece. Because these guys, by the way, this has a name. You take your leftovers and they actually make their own pasta. It's actually a recognized pasta form. It's called, I forget. I'm not doing it tonight, but you can save your ends. Now in the meantime, I've got all this extra dough. We took the time to roll it out. So let's just quickly cut this into noodles. I'll show you how to do that. So with your leftovers, I'm just gonna make some tagliatelle here, or linguine. I mean, basically you make whatever you want. Actually, maybe I'll do linguine. Again, we're just talking about the thickness of the noodle here. Yep, it's going to be a late stream tonight, but I promise it's worth it. We're kind of almost at the point where I'm going to assemble this, and then we're going to do the taste test. So kind of like into the middle here, into the middle, fold it up just like this, over like that. So this is a really easy way to cut pasta, and I'm going for linguine here. So linguine is it's a little narrower than tagliatelle. And I'm just slicing off the noodles here. There is, in fact, a special knife that has a particular shape for doing this, but I've never had a problem with just my regular old chef's knife. Okay, so there's our noodles. Let's get a pan out. Where is my semolina? Where is my semolina? Okay, ideally you would toss this with semolina. I don't know where my semolina went, so I'm just going to use the 00. And this just keeps the noodles from sticking while they dry. So you can see here, I just take these in here and just give it a little toss. If you're like not in a hurry, you can make nests like this too. Like I could have actually just extended each series of noodles and made like the little fancy nests. But there you go. So this is linguine for another day, and it won't stick because I've got everything with flour. The reason you don't use 00 like I did, although it's fine, is you'll change. The pasta is going to absorb the 00 and it won't absorb semolina. So I'm going to change the texture slightly, but you'd have to probably be an Italian master chef to tell the difference, and I'm not. So let me put that away. Okay, any questions? We're getting down to the end bit here. So here's our pan. So you didn't see me what I did though. I turned on the water. So one of the things we want to do is we're gonna blanch the sheet. Oh, you can't see them. We're gonna blanch these sheets of pasta. It makes them a little easier to handle and a little easier to work with. And it also, because we're not thickening a sauce, we don't want all the starch that's in that sheet of pasta. We don't want to get rid of it all, but we do, you'll see when we do it, we're going to blanch them for about a minute in the water, and then I'm going to duck them in just cold water for just a splash till they're cool enough to handle, and then we're going to drain them. That takes some of the, like the glutinous texture away, which we want to do. So, almost there. And I think these are going to fit in perfectly into our little dish. Yes, they are. Oh, we got to butter this guy. So here's something you can use salted butter for. I actually do have some in the fridge, salted butter. It's good for like greasing dishes. There you go. An acceptable use for salted butter. Who knew? I'm actually just gonna check on my other lasagna here, which looks amazing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm turning up the oven a little bit because now that when you cook this lasagna, you want it to go in for about 40 minutes, and then take the cover off, and you want the top to brown a bit. I'm not super worried about the top browning, but we're gonna go with that. Okay. I should have turned that water on earlier, but everything else seems to be going okay. You know what? I'm gonna do it here. The one thing about electric stoves, they're slow as hell. I don't know what they're good for, but we're gonna hurry this up a little bit. Now I can show you how to blanch the sheets like right in front of you here. So here's the water. I'm going to cool them in. And how easy is this? Look at this, 4 sheets, guys. Anybody can roll these out. You can roll these out with a rolling pin. Super easy. And despite what I said about the KitchenAid, if the KitchenAid is what you have, use it. No reason not to. Okay, I'm gonna put my Mattarello somewhere safer. Okay, I got some wine. Anybody else have any questions about anything? Talk about next week? This will just take a second. We are almost done. We are almost at the taste test. Our bechamel looks great. Should I put it back on the heat for a sec? Yes. I'm actually glad you brought that up, Serena. So Serena's asking about spinach egg pasta. And if you go to Bologna, the classic recipe that is in the archives in Bologna has spinach. It's a ragu, bechamel, and spinach. Whether the spinach is in the mix or in the pasta, that's definitely part of it. I haven't done it. The time travel lasagna is, I just turned the temperature up, so it's kind of like, if you heard the timer, I had it in for 40 minutes. I turned it down to like 150 degrees to keep it warm. I've cranked the heat just a bit because I want it to hopefully brown the top a little bit, but it should be fine. In fact, we should probably, remind me when I get the noodles done, I'll take it out. It's got to rest for a few minutes. Maybe I'll actually get that now. Okay, I'm gonna get it now. No, actually, hang on just a second. Let's do it right. Let's do it right. Now I get it. Okay, I'm back. So this is the time travel lasagna. This is right in front of you. Okay, this water's now boiling. Pull one of my timers actually throw them out in frustration. I think I did. Yeah. Okay, I had 2 kitchen timers, but they annoyed me, so I think I threw them out. So, guys, you blanch this for like less than a minute, say 45 seconds to a minute. The bechamel is so the layers go bechamel, ragu, parm. No, yes. So again, this is just going to take a sec. Actually, I don't need these. This one's ready. And again, this is just goes for like a quick dunk in here. And I actually like reach in, like I test it for texture here. And you can see like this is perfect. This is exactly what you want in your lasagna sheet. This is even a good thickness. It's tricky getting them as thin as you need them. Like you can see here, I'll show you guys, like maybe you can't see, but this is a really thin sheet of pasta. You can see right through it. But once it's blanched, it's thicker. But this isn't too thick. This is certainly a lot thinner than a supermarket noodle, which I think is what you want. Oh yeah, timer. If you can believe it, it's getting even hotter in this kitchen. Like the way this noodle's going. And so we're going to be eating lasagna here for a little while, but that's okay. I don't think you can have too much. Serena's probably starving. I kind of feel like this guy. Don't stick. What happened here? There we go. And just draining them on a sheet pan. You could probably do these all at once. I really don't want 2 of them to stick together after doing all the work of rolling them out. So I'm being careful. There we go. There we go. Oh, I just realized it's under me, but anyway, you get a rough idea what's going on. Almost ready. I'm dying to cut into this guy. So good. All right, you can come out, you can go in. And I'm paying attention here. I'm trying to keep the noodles like relatively flat and in the right, oh, no, in the right shape. That'll be fine. Rescue this guy. So we are almost ready to assemble. So I know that, thank you. I know this seems like a lot of work, and it is kind of, but if you shortcut this with, you know, oven ready noodles, I really think, so the other thing too is oven ready noodles are not egg noodles, which is a little unfortunate. Because they really, you know, a classic lasagna is done with fresh egg noodles, not, wow, I have no room for anything anymore. not dried pasta noodles. So you're giving up a little bit there, but I will say, like, if this is going to be your first foray into homemade pasta, lasagna is a perfect start, because even if you're using the KitchenAid, you don't need to cut anything. You know, you just roll out the sheets and cut them to the right size. Okay, it is finally assembly time. So, ooh, was in the oven, so it's hot. Okay, we've got our thing here. We've got our parm. Got our bechamel. Everything goes off. And this is the ragu from earlier. So let's put this guy together. Excited. Okay. That was the Mattarello, in case you were wondering what the loud noise was. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, let's get this front and center, is a little bechamel on the bottom. This is your base layer. You don't need to go crazy with it. There we go. Get a good coating on the bottom. And we're gonna go a little ragu over top. Now, if you're doing this for guests, don't do this. But I found it really easy to just, like, ooh, it's hot, spread it out with your fingers. But I'm obviously just going to be the one eating this, so. And then a layer of parm. Okay. And then the first of our pasta sheets, which is actually just about the right size. Perfect. Okay, so we got that done. Got a bechamel in there. Now, I could stop here, like, sorry, not halfway through, but this is a perfect time. You can pop this, like, you could wrap this and put it in the freezer and finish it whenever you get hungry. Okay. The ragu is really hot, actually. And a layer of parm. Now we talked about seasoning a little bit. I did season this ragu after, after it had simmered for quite some time to adjust it. It didn't need a lot, but it still needed a little more salt than the initial boost that I gave it. A little more. So again, there's our bechamel. A little ragu over top. I'm gonna have just enough. Okay, let me actually spread that with this one. It's actually pretty hot, so I'm gonna give my fingertips a little rest here. And a good slug of parm. Another sheet. Oh, I'm gonna have to steal some of the other ragu to top this guy off. Bechamel. And again, you do this 4 times. Okay, so that's it for the time travel, the pre-stream ragu is all done. Give it some cheese. Final layer of pasta. She's just going to cap this beautifully. Last bit of bechamel. That's a lot. But I kind of feel like on your top layer you can have like a fair bit. And we're gonna scoop some, think of this as like the Beaujolais Nouveau version of ragu. Not, you know, it's like bright and fresh, it hasn't fully aged yet. It's fine. And top that with a little parm. And of course, round it apart. That is not enough parm. 4 layers, I think, is the standard, Rebecca. I don't know for sure. I've always done 4 layers with my lasagna. It seems to fit the dishes. I guess there's no reason not to do like 3 if you have like a slightly less deep dish. Okay, so yeah, I didn't have enough parm, but I really feel like the top needs a good coating. Okay, so getting down there. That is an assembled lasagna. So I'm gonna put that in front of you guys for a sec. Everybody have a look. If you have any questions, now is the time. Put this away. Put this away. I have absolutely wiped out my kitchen tonight. It's fantastic. Do a little bit of cleanup here before we do our taste test. Get our plate out. Okay. So this, guys, I haven't actually decided what I'm gonna do with this one. I don't think I'm gonna cook it tonight. I'm probably gonna put saran wrap over that and pop it right in the freezer, because that will be a nice dinner down the road. So lasagna freezes beautifully. There's no reason not to. Let's see where we're at with this guy though. And how am I gonna get that out? A good question, isn't it? And I'm actually gonna, you know what? We can do these guys. Let's serve a smaller tasting portion and get one off to Serena, who's probably really hungry at this point. So the first one out of the pan is always kind of a disaster in my experience. I'm hoping it won't be. Everything seems to be holding together pretty well. Really need to get my hair cut. Kind of driving me crazy. What do you guys think? Like, in this way and up? No idea. Oh, it came out beautifully. Look at that. So, well, actually, I'll deliver this one and I'll be right back. I'm really happy with the way this looks right now. Less happy about where my forks went. There we are. Okay, give me 1 sec. Okay, I'm back. Let's get another piece out, and the proof is in the pudding, as it were. Still really hot. Okay. Wow, that's still really hot. Here you go, guys. I'm actually gonna get a little knife here. Time for the taste test. I'm really happy with the way I don't know if you guys, I don't want to tip it up too much, but the layers have really, can I tip it up to here? Have just held together beautifully. I'm really pleased with the structure, and the presentation and everything else. Okay. That's really good. You know, I've said this before on stream, and I love doing this for you guys. It just seems like every time I make a dish for you guys on stream, it is just the best version of it I've ever had. Yeah, wow. The clarity of flavors is really good. So, yeah, I know. So, this doesn't taste like a traditional American lasagna. You have just like, you can taste every individual element. You can taste the ragu, you can taste the bechamel backing it up, you can taste the parm. I'm really happy with this. Holy cow. I want to say, guys, I highly recommend. So the noodles are also really good. I really think that egg noodles add a lot to this dish. And you know what? You can probably buy fresh egg noodles somewhere. Like flat sheets. This isn't that hard to do. The ragu is as easy to make as like ground beef that we use to put in taco shells. It's that simple. Bechamel is like only half of a mac and cheese. Also really simple. I know we're running a little bit late. This has been a longer stream. Because I wanted to show you guys all this, but to knock this out doesn't take that long. Just wow. Now, this is also the base. Like, this is the OG. There are so many different kinds of lasagna. There are so many different kinds of layered pasta dishes. There's the Greek one that Rebecca and Serena were talking about earlier. So many different things you can do with this basic technique. I would start here because it's amazing. Yeah. I wouldn't do anything different, guys. I'm going to keep making this. This isn't in the blue book, but it will be by the end of the night. And, yeah, wow. I really appreciate the opportunity that that I have to do this for you guys. It's a privilege. It really, it certainly elevated my cooking, and broadened my whole overall experience, which has been great. So it's a privilege. But I don't have anything else to say about lasagna. It's kind of where I'm at. So I'm going to hang around for a couple seconds for questions if you have any. It seems pretty straightforward, but I will be here. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot going on, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this. There are a lot of different techniques in this, but none of them are particularly complex. Even got a little crunch at the outside from the noodles. Yeah, that's amazing. Really happy. Well, thanks, guys. I honestly can't remember whose suggestion lasagna was. It was an excellent suggestion. I did a fair amount of work on this today. This one was a little more prep than usual. I had to make the entire lasagna, obviously. I really had a lot of good times. I had a lot of fun doing it. So that's it for me. We can talk a little bit about next week if you want. I don't have a plan as of yet, so I'm happy to take some suggestions. How? Or I'll just make something up. And I can't believe, I mean, I'm happy it held together. The one thing I don't like about lasagna is when the whole thing just like slides apart on your plate and it's all like soupy. Great. Yeah, Benny, it is a good dish. And you don't have to rush this. You can make this over the course of the day. You can make your ragu. The ragu takes 5 or 10 minutes to put together, and then it sits on the stove for 4 hours. And then at some point, you can make your bechamel. You can make your bechamel, you can let it cool, leave it on the stove, put it in the fridge, heat it up when you need it. Doesn't matter. Make your pasta anytime you want. Although I will say, I would make the pastas closer to, oh yeah, we could do that, Serena. I would make the pasta closer to serving time, simply because the sheets dry out. You'd have to put them under a wet cloth if you weren't going to use them right away. Although I guess you could roll the sheets out, blanch them, and just set them aside. That would probably be okay too. Anyway, yes, definitely something you can do in stages. If you have a busy day and you just have like 15 minutes here or there, this is a dish you can put together. So, okay. I am going to tackle my kitchen, which is going to take a significant amount of time. But thank you for joining me tonight. It's always a pleasure. Love doing this for you guys. I will see you next week, and I'll figure something out. So, leaning towards Italian, but no guarantees. Everybody have an amazing week, and I'll see you next week.